State of the Sun Devils with Jeremy Schnell, Jesse Morrison, and Damon Allred.
An Arizona Sports Podcast.
Hello and welcome into another edition of State of the Sun Devils alongside Jesse Morrison and Damon Allred. I'm Jeremy Schnell. This is our basketball preview episode. We're going to go over men's and women's basketball for the Sun Devils, and we're going to start with the men's team. Bobby Hurley, it's no secret, this is his final year under contract. He's basically coaching for his job.
Yep.
I would say. Yep. That is
backs against the wall. He said it himself.
Mm-hmm. So he's coaching to save his job, you would say, Jesse. Mm-hmm. And I mean, we saw it last year. A lot of people were calling for his job, not just on social media. There were, some people were saying that there were people within Sun Devil Athletics that were skeptical about bringing him back. Here he is. He's back, and he has a brand new roster. I think how many players are back this year, Jamin?
There is one scholarship player that played on the team last year. That's Trevor Best.
Trevor Best.
Who played half the season.
Played half the season, and joined in January.
We were impressed with him.
Yeah, he had some good games.
Yeah.
He flashed for sure.
But let's talk about Bobby overall. His career at ASU, up and down, obviously. We saw the guard U years, I would say. Got as high as 3 in the country that
believe it
year.
Was 3, yeah.
Yeah, the game at Kansas, obviously, and what a year that was. But we're here now. Bobby coming off of 2 straight, underperforming seasons. And I guess, Jesse, I'll start with you. What do you want to see from a Bobby Hurley coach team this year?
Well, I just want to see them fix some of the issues that have always plagued Bobby Hurley coach teams. Missed free throws, lack of ball movement on offense, just kind of chaos ball is how I would describe it. Yeah. Bad shot selection, whether it's contested layups or contested threes is another thing we'll see, just like, people that probably shouldn't be taking threes. So I just want to see that stuff corrected this year. And that's what I'm looking for Bobby to save his job. Like, that's what he needs to do to get that extension.
And we'll talk about how specifically this team as constructed should play, but specifically how Bobby Hurley coaches. What do you want to see from this team in terms of, a change from last season, I would say, Damon?
Well, it's going to be interesting having Mo Odom lead the charge. 7.5 assists per game last year at Pepperdine, which, even though it's Pepperdine, you don't average 7.5 assists in college on accident. And, that was top 5 in the nation. And Bobby has talked about how competitive he is when they've gone live, and has said things even like as competitive as I would want out of that position, which, knowing Bobby Hurley and how important the point guard position is to him, that's obviously a very high bar to clear. And if he's clearing that in practice right now, it's a good sign, obviously. We don't hear Bobby praise intangibles as much as he praises, traits and things like that. So I think that really stood out to me. But it's the international talent around Mo Odom that's kind of going to make this team go. I think for Bobby Hurley, it's just going to be about that connection with Mo Odom. Mo's from the Bronx, and so that Northeast background, they can kind of relate to each other on that front. And, for me, as far as what Bobby Hurley needs to do to save his job, it's pretty cut and dry, black and white, which it isn't in most cases. But in this case, he's got to get to the tournament, and he's got to make it past the first round.
Wow. There's nothing short of that you think he could save his job, you think?
I just don't think that he's done enough over the course of his tenure here to say that the body of work is okay going forward if it still is not a bar that he can reach. Which there's only been 1 tournament appearance for this team this decade.
Yeah.
So,
and I mean, there would have been 2 if the 2019-20 season hadn't had a COVID, stoppage. That team was the best he ever had.
Yeah.
But I think Damon, talking about Mo Odom, I think Mo Odom is the key for this team.
Obviously, yeah.
13 points, about 8 assists last year. Good shooter, 37.9%. Like, he made his free throws just under 80%.
Which is something ASU has struggled with.
Yeah, so I think Mo Odom is the key to this team maybe shocking some people, because, again, like and I hate to reference this because I do not think they're the same, but just like the football team last year, this team was picked last in the preseason poll. So
by the coaches and the media.
Yeah, by the coaches and the media. So I don't think that, I think that Damon's Bobby's facing an seriously uphill battle. He's like at the base of Mount Everest right now. And if he wants to save his job in Damon's context of saving his job. So, I mean, I don't think he has to do that much necessarily.
Do you think making the tournament is
I think making the tournament is it.
So here's my question. If they squeak into the tournament, like if they barely make
like a last four in.
Right, and then they lose in the first four.
Yeah, I think that saves his job because they were supposed to be because they're picked last in the Big 12. I mean, like that's an incredible coaching job. That's maybe Big 12 Coach of the Year, in my opinion.
Yeah. Just because the standard for this team with all the newcomers makes sense.
I do want to talk about this team as a whole. I was listening to Bobby Hurley's availability the other day, which, Damon, you were at, and we'll get your thoughts on that in a second. But what concerned me specifically was him talking about last year's team in context of this year's team. He said he felt like last year's team had more upside compared to this year's team, which should be concerning to him, seeing that this is a season where he's coaching for his job, no?
Yeah, well, last year it just had much more talent on paper than this year's team. The Jaden Quaintances, the Joson Sannons, those are guys that, were on NBA draft boards at points. And, I wouldn't be surprised if Quaintance ends up going, top 5 or top 10 in this upcoming draft. He's just that incredible of a player, but it never manifested itself at Arizona State. Obviously, injuries played a part in that, but other things did as well. This team just doesn't have those level of talents. And, Bobby mentioned it in his midsummer availability. Just, no one can really say that they're above anyone else on this team because of that. And everyone has to earn their keep. And I think that that's what we're going to see throughout this throughout this non-conference as they kind of find themselves.
Should that be concerning to Bobby that he said himself that last year's team had more upside compared to the team that he's going into this season with he's coaching for his job with?
No, because upside a lot of times doesn't necessarily mean success. Like
it's volatility a lot of times.
Yeah, I mean, I'll go to a football example here. You look at some of these quarterbacks that are drafted that Jeremy falls in love with going into the draft because they have big arms but they haven't really proved it on the field.
You can even do the Cardinals thing. Kyler Murray probably has a higher upside than Jacoby Brissett.
Yep, exactly.
Brissett is maybe a little more polished and a little more safer as far as how he operates.
So, if you look at Anthony Richardson, he has all the talent in the world, all the upside, but it doesn't really turn out well. I mean, if you just have a steady team, maybe this team is the game manager of college basketball teams. Maybe, they string together some wins because they aren't, all trying to be superstars and get to the NBA.
They're the Daniel Jones of this year.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe.
They just play together. They play well. They move the ball. That's the recipe, I think.
Yeah.
And I guess one thing that is super noticeable is the amount of international guys on this team. And what Bobby said is that their coachability really just stands out, which is something that we would like to see. We would like to see a team that not only is coachable, but is together. And he also said that the experience that they get playing overseas, no matter where it may be, they're getting coached by people that, are, above the college level, I would say, right?
Yeah, in some of these cases, guys are actually even playing what I would consider to be tougher competition than they're going to see in the Big 12. Like 7'1" center Massamba Diop out of Senegal, who's been playing the last couple years in Spain. That domestic Spain league is arguably better than the Big 12 for my money.
Not according to Brett Yormark, though.
Yeah,
but we
Brett
won't get
Yormark,
into that.
He thinks the Big 12 is the second best basketball league in the world outside the NBA. I don't think that that's true.
Didn't have the national champion last year either.
Is he grouping in the G League in with the NBA? Or
I think he's saying it's better than the G League and better than the Euro League, better than all those, and I just don't agree there.
All G League teams would destroy all college basketball teams.
It's, 30-year-olds versus 20-year-olds. We talked about that a little bit. But another guy.
When I saw Spencer Dinwiddie suiting up for a team overseas, I'm like, yeah, this Big 12 not gonna beat that team.
Yeah, but continue with the international.
Another guy was Andrea Grbovic out of Montenegro, who's probably going to be starting stretch 4 if I had to project things out. He had been playing in the Adriatic League, which in the Mediterranean area. It's a very, very physical league, and Big 12 is known for being very physical. And so I think
especially when you're playing teams like Houston and Texas Tech.
And so him being able to bring that experience over with the proven track record of shooting well at his size at 6'11", I think that there are a few guys who can really present some good tools for this team.
So you're saying he'll help out in those games where it's first to 60 wins?
Yeah, he will
cool.
help out in those games.
Great. Those games, we see those games in the Big 12.
Yeah.
Damon, I do. Let's get to your projected starting lineup before we get to just overall scope of what we think this team is going to be.
So obviously you got Mo Odom at the point guard here, and Masamba Diop and Grbovic at the 5 and the 4. Between that, I got Bryce Ford, who's actually a local guy that's transferring back from Toledo, at the 2. And then Bobby's actually been very impressed with Bryce Ford, said that he's been much better than his Toledo production would indicate. And starting at the 3, and this is a guy who might be on a minutes restriction to start the year because of an injury that he's been dealing with, but Alan McCabe, who appears to be the most thick, physical, muscular
PJ
kind of
Tucker
body.
type?
Yeah, PJ Tucker type a little bit.
Yeah.
6'8", so a little bit taller than PJ Tucker.
Sure.
And that's kind of the grouping that I'm expecting going into the season. By the time Noah Musin, who's the Belgian point guard, by the time he gets back from a roll at ankle, I would expect that he starts alongside Odom.
Okay.
But until that point, that's kind of what you would look at.
Damon, I have a question for you real quick. How does the loss of VJ Wallace affect this team?
It's hard to say just because this is such a group of newcomers, and just the film that's out there on these guys that are coming from NAIA, JUCO, and overseas. There's just not a lot out there on really most of this team. And so it's hard to say from that standpoint. But as far as, most of this team is built of guys in their last years, VJ was not one of those guys. So I'm curious to see what the plan was for him as far as development and, reaching a Big 12 level. But, obviously you never want to start the season losing one of your scholarship players for the year.
Listen, guys, I don't expect this team to win very many games this year.
No.
But would I be surprised if, they come out and surprise us just because of the sheer number of guys that have played competitive basketball, at a higher level than high school? I wouldn't be shocked, but when it comes to this team, there are a lot of, different sites out there. Some of them are predicting that they're going to win 2 games in the Big 12, which, wouldn't be great. But
it would be half as many as last year.
Yeah. So, we're not expecting much. And, Jesse, in terms of this team, you agree with that sentiment?
Yeah, I think they're probably going to get like 2 conference wins, and the non-conference is hard. They're playing teams like Texas, UCLA,
Oregon
they've got
State.
Gonzaga. It's a
the
tough.
Adam Miller, Tyon Grant Foster Valley homecoming.
For this basketball team, they're going to play on Tuesday, their first game of the season.
Southern Utah
at home. That's a 7 p.m. start, Tuesday, November 4th. Now to the women's team, quickly. Molly Miller's first season. I saw a cherry pick stat the other day that she has a joint highest winning percentage in all of women's college basketball at this point. I guess if you're
It wasn't that cherry picked. It was just minimum 5 years of Division I head coaching.
It's Gino, it's Kim Mulkey, and it's Molly Miller. So there you go.
The big 3.
She's a winner.
Big 3.
She's a winner. She had over 30 wins last year with GCU. So coming in this year,
a 30-game win streak.
yeah, and
it's hard to do that without being a winner.
And so coming in, to this season, I wouldn't say the expectations are high, but they're higher than last season. And, you would like to see this team come out and possibly compete for a tournament spot, Jesse.
Yeah, I'm really excited to watch this team just because of the energy that Molly brings. I think her team is going to have a lot of that energy. I think they're going to be able to feed off of that.
The Benergy, as she likes to call it, the bench energy.
So I was watching a media availability of hers from the summer, it was like 4 months ago, and it was almost so distracting how active the team was in the back of the media availability. They were going so hard. So yeah, I think they'll definitely play hard. Not sure how good they're going to be, but I think Gabby Elliott is the key to this team. Transfer from Penn State. She's got to stay healthy. She basically had 3 injury-plagued seasons leading up into her last year at Penn State, but 14 points a game last year, shot 40 2% from three. Could get her free throw percentage up a little bit. She was at 74, but also a pretty good rebounder, about 5 a game. So I think she's the key for this team this year.
Yeah, some other proven power 4 talents as well on the lineup. Point guard Marley Washnitz, who's proven to be a good leader already for this team. McKenna Brackens as well, showing some leadership, transferring in from UNLV. I think that the mix of kind of up-and-comers like Brackens, along with the power 4 established forces like Washnitz and Elliott, I think that all of it's going to create for a good mix. There's a couple freshmen as well that they're pretty high on. I think that there's a really good mix of different backgrounds, and that should play into Molly Miller's system well, I think.
There's a lot of good energy surrounding this program. The season tickets have been selling much better. I think
higher than the past 3 years combined is what they've said.
Correct. What do you want to see from this team in terms of overall growth, and where do you think they can get to?
I think this team can get to the tournament if everything goes right. I think that they've got a lot of talent, and I think they've got good energy. Now, I think that a lot of people underrate the Big 12 in women's basketball. It's a tough conference, and it's not quite where the men's conference is, but it's a tough conference, so it would not shock me if they get to the tournament. But, I think we've still got to keep our expectations a little bit, tapered. But I do think they can get to the tournament.
This is a big building block here, Damon, and I would say they could get close. I don't expect them to make the tournament, but I expect them to be close. I expect them to be competing. Maybe even win 1 or 2 games at the Big 12 tournament when that happens.
Yeah, I think people forget kind of how ready GCU looked in the NCAA tournament against Baylor. And, that's a team that had a very big talent advantage over GCU, and suddenly Molly Miller's starting to get a little more talent. And if you can show in year 1, hey, this system works, it can win games in the Big 12, then suddenly recruits are buying in even more than they already have, which she's already gotten 3 or 4 2026 commits without ever playing a game or without coaching a game at ASU. And so just from that standpoint, I think that it will be huge to make a statement in year 1, obviously bring this program kind of back into the light as far as women's basketball goes. I'm kind of with you guys where I wouldn't be surprised by a tournament run, but I'm also not necessarily expecting it either. But definitely things that can be looked forward to throughout the season, which, we just couldn't say that about some women's basketball teams in years past.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. By the time you're watching this, Monday night, so tonight, ASU plays against Coppin State. So if you're watching this and you still got some time, head out to Desert Financial Arena.
Tickets are real cheap for that one.
Do you think they'll give up 100?
To Coppin State?
The way that they did to Arkansas State last year?
No.
I would hope not.
No, defense is going to be key for this team.
I would be very shocked if this team gives up 100 at any point this year.
I think they will blow the doors off of Coppin State.
You would hope so. And if you want to go support Molly Miller in her first ever coaching appearance at ASU, that game again is at 6:30 tonight. Thank you so much for watching this edition of State of the Sun Devils, the basketball preview episode. You can find us on all forms of social media at AZ Sports Devils. Damon wrote a good preview on the men's basketball team that you can go read on ArizonaSports.com and the Arizona Sports app. For Jesse Morrison and Damon Allred, I'm Jeremy Schnell. We'll talk to you soon.